finally open our questions to our media friends. Who wants to go first?
Anyone?
All right.
Raise your hand.
Hi, so I'm Troy from WrestleZone. I have a question for El Fantasmo. So this is tomorrow will be your first time wrestling here in the Philippines. So I want to know that Zach, since he has been here before, do you have any stories or insights on what it's like wrestling in front of a Filipino wrestling crowd? And what are your expectations for tomorrow?
That's me. Yeah, I mean, we got to wrestle in Bangkok last year, and that was an electric crowd. And everything that I've heard about the Philippines seems like it's on track to be as good or better of a crowd tomorrow. Thanks, JDL.
That's because you have a monotone voice with no enthusiasm. No being positive.
I'm just being deadpan to the people right now. But I forget your question. To be honest. But I can tell this is a very special moment in Filipino wrestling history. And I'm very excited to lead the way with my boy Linus. Who's Linus? Well, I was drinking all night in Manila, so I'm doing alright. That is Linus. This is Fabio. He is my Pepito.
No, you're.
I am Pepito. He's also my Pepito. But anyways, I'm excited to have the best wrestling match in Filipino wrestling history tomorrow. In front of the best crowd in Southeast Asia. So you guys better not let me down.
Let's go!
All right. Next question, Chino.
Hi, my name is Chino with the Rest of Wrestling podcast. This one goes out to ZSJ. This is your second time here in the Philippines. Can you walk us back to the very first time you arrived in our country? What were your initial thoughts were of wrestling and an invitation to wrestle all the way on the other side of the world? And what brought you out here?
Well, this is going to be my 14th year in Japan. But last year wrestling in Thailand and then coming here for the first time were my first experiences wrestling outside of Japan in Asia, so it was obviously long overdue. But Chris Brooks had been telling me about, not only how amazing the wrestling scene is, but just how amazing the people are in the Philippines. So I came 2 months after he came, so yeah, it was something I was very eager to do. But when you have a little bit of insider information from a friend, then I was like, right, I need to finally get out and start experiencing the Southeast Asian wrestling scene, separate from Japan. And then, like I said before, from the moment I landed in the Philippines, it felt like I had lifelong friends already. And then, it's crazy that this is only my second time here. And my goal moving forward will be, hopefully, it doesn't take a year in between return trips. So, I want to, within practical reason, remain part of the scene in any way that I can.
Thank you so much for that answer. I really like that answer. Our next question, anyone? Anyone? Lance.
My name is Kurt from Radio Files. So it's kind of clear at this point that the Southeast Asian wrestling scene is getting more and more, modern in a way, more interconnected. So what are your expectations on the Southeast Asian wrestling scene in in the next 5 years?
Wow.
I'll start first. And I am a byproduct of what you mentioned, that the Southeast Asian wrestling scene is growing smaller. Having had the opportunities to wrestle in places like Thailand, in Hong Kong, in Malaysia, Singapore, it's really amazing to see how we've grown ever since this tiny scene was starting out maybe 10 or 11 years ago. I guess for the next 5 years, my goal would be to make the pro wrestling world knows about us now. But I want to be more ingrained in the pro wrestling world. And like Zach said, where he wants to be a part of the Pinoy wrestling scene, and obviously the Southeast Asian wrestling scene as well. I can't speak for the entire Southeast Asian wrestling scene, but for me, I want to be part of their scene as well, to just make us more ingrained. And hopefully in the next 5 years, that's something that, as Zach mentioned, that he wants to keep coming back, but I also want to selfishly get out of the Philippines as well.
Well, on my end, I have not wrestled for other countries except the Philippines, both for circumstance and personal choice. However, when it comes to the future of the Southeast Asian wrestling scene, for one, 10 years ago, it's even a fucking miracle that there's a Southeast Asian pro wrestling scene. Yeah? Yeah! So a lot of the younger ones, the newer fans, you guys don't know how hard and how long and all of the things it took just for the phrase Southeast Asian pro wrestling scene to actually happen, right? And throughout the years, we've made good relationships with our neighbors, the Philippines, and elsewhere and here. So I want, like what JD said, we want it to continue, but I think a more feasible scale, right? We already have those alliances with different promotions and with different people in Southeast Asia. I think one of the next to-do list of us, which is me and JD and everybody else who look elsewhere, is our responsibility. We have to have a more tangible thing that will represent and encompass the entire Southeast, which is beginning to happen already with the frequency of Mr. ELP, the Southeast Asian wrestling scene. So we don't know, maybe 5 years we have a legitimate, because fuck all other Southeast Asian promotions, Southeast Asian Championship. And it's fucking what? Defended in 2 countries? Come on! Defend that shit all over Southeast Asia. Make it legit Southeast Asia. Maybe that's one thing we should do, yeah? Yeah? Andrew! Bumi! Who else? Let's do it!
Do we have any more questions?
Hello, I'm Nick Troy, DJ, news producer, and content creator. I'm just curious, since you guys drank a lot last night, how many bottles did you even drink, especially Zach and...
We have a picture. Give me my phone.
Alright.
Wait. Actually, I was doing a little Google Translate last night, and it had one phrase that I really want to say to the room.
I do it if I'll be excited or I'll be scared.
The fact that you brought up our drinking last night, I actually do have evidence. That we closed out the fridge at the cafe last night beside the training place. And if these boys can wrestle as half as good as they can drink, we are in for a special show tomorrow.
Thank you for that answer.
Do we have any more questions from our media friends? Anyone? Hi, yeah, come on.
Yeah, my name is Michael from G3, particularly to Fantasma and Taylor Jr. Can you at least tell everyone here what can you say about our current Filipino wrestlers and your experience with them?
Well, the boys know how to drink. We did a little training seminar yesterday, and the natural ability that everybody had kind of blew us away. That, we didn't really have to teach anybody how to do anything. That I was kind of busting out tricks in my pocket, trying to think of things that they couldn't do, and they could do everything. And I was very impressed with the ability that these guys have, basically by teaching themselves, Yeah. So, if Zach wants to finish next question, that would be very good for the room right now, because I don't know how to close this.
That's very good stuff. You've warmed up the room. Thank you. Thank you for your information previously as well. Obviously I've got much more of an insight than ELP, but obviously this still is only my second time. We did training the first time that we did training with a smaller group, and like Phantasmo said, it's remarkable. I said yesterday, I would be impressed if the Filipino wrestlers were 50% as good as they were, considering the situation and the circumstance. I mean, modern Filipino wrestling is basically a decade old, and really, all of the wrestlers have had to teach and lead themselves. So I think the wrestlers at the top of the scene, it's even more impressive because they clearly have an immense understanding for pro wrestling when you've not been able to get, an education in it. It's, at this point I've been wrestling over 20 years, and, I'm still very in awe of everyone here. And then the second takeaway that I'm very happy about is I think the Filipino wrestling scene is in a much better situation than it was this time last year when I came, and the frequency of the shows, the quality of the shows, and the professionalism. There are much larger independent groups all around the world that don't have anywhere near this level. The fact that we're even doing this the day before the event, so broadly, I think the potential is massive in the Philippines. And also, touching on what Jake said before, selfishly I want to come to the Philippines as much as possible, but obviously I do not want this to be a one-way street. I am here as a representative of New Japan, and I guess somewhat Japanese pro wrestling, so the goal is, of course, to get as many Filipino wrestlers to Japan in the future, and then, selfishly I would love a Filipino wrestler in the New Japan dojo or in New Japan in the future, but obviously, that's the goal of being here right now, that we start to get those wheels in motion.
What a great answer. Any more questions from our media friends? Yes.
Yung tanong ngayon. Last time I had to beg you for questions. Today, I have too many questions.
Question for Mr. ELP and Mr. Zach Jr. Aside from wrestling skill and being able to drink a lot, what would it take for the wrestlers in Southeast Asia to make it in Japan? What kind of mentality, what does it take?
I think we're getting close to the stage that it's a when, not an if. So I think the best preparation for the Filipino wrestlers is to grow the scene here so they can get as much experience as possible. But you can obviously only prepare yourself. But I think it is a bigger leap. But I think the ambition that everyone in this wrestling scene already has is paramount. So I mean, it's some of it is betting on yourself and taking a risk, and obviously everyone has their own personal circumstances. Whether it's feasible to move abroad or spend a long time abroad. But I think we are in a situation where it's going to happen very soon, I think.
I just want to touch on the fact that there's a a lot of buzz around the main event tag team match, but the cool thing is that we're bringing a lot of eyes to this show, a lot of fresh eyes of people who haven't seen what Dexcon is all about. So, you know, the opening match, the middle match, the semi-main event, those are the guys that are going to get a lot of eyes on them that wouldn't have those eyes on them. And, you know, this tag team match is going to be hype, as everybody knows, but I'm excited to see what these guys on the undercard bring just to show what they can do, because they're going to have a lot of eyes on them that they've never had before. And I think that's an underrated fact about the show tomorrow, is that everybody on the show is going to put a step above what they usually do, you know. I don't want to say we're going to bring a Tokyo Dome main event tomorrow, but the excitement that we have to perform tomorrow is at a higher level than a main event of a Korakuen that we would have usually, you know. Like, this is a very special thing for us and you guys, and I'm excited that everyone on the undercard gets to show what they can do before we do what we do, you know?
Well, we have 10 minutes left in our media event. We have time for 2 or 3 more questions. And
Again, hi, so Troy from Russell Zone. I have a question for the team of Fabio Matisik and Alfred Asmo. So this will be your first time working with each other compared to, of course, Jake and Zach, who have competed against each other in the past. So I'm curious what your first impressions were of each other upon meeting one another yesterday as pro wrestlers and as peers.
Well, you know, I know Linus can fucking slam a couple beers. Linus can actually slam a couple beers, but yeah, you know, I met Fabio for the first time yesterday, and he impressed me with his training, but he impressed me even more with his drinking abilities. And his fucking dope-ass haircut. And if you want to be over with me, you gotta look cool. And this guy looks cool. And to be honest, I don't know a single move that he does, but it doesn't matter. So we're gonna fuck these guys up tomorrow. You fat little bumblebee looking motherfucker.
Thanks, Logan Paul.
Well done. Drink water.
I thought I'd be partnering with a Mexican guy. Then, you know, he goes like, this fucker, why you named that Fantasma anyway?
That's a good question.
And like, are you somewhat related to El Catiponero? So I have a lot of questions.
I don't know my father, so
That's okay. But you know, God, if you're in this industry, you only really care about the people you work with. So like, I don't watch wrestling often. So you know, and when the bookers or the promoters say, okay, you're gonna wrestle this guy, first thing I do is I Google him. And I try to Google him, his fucking entrance is sick. Where you buy that?
Wait, what?
custom made. You can't get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, I thought he's cool, has a little charisma, okay, that's great. Now, I don't know, like, again, I don't really know what he does. He doesn't know what I do, and I think that's what's gonna make our shit work, because we're probably gonna go crazy, just beat them up, okay? That's it. I just really thought he's gonna be Mexican.
all right, 2 more questions. All right.
Hello guys. As you had mentioned earlier, there has been a renaissance in pro wrestling in general. And there are people who weren't fans of wrestling generally, but because they watch you work, not just in New Japan but also in other places. What are the advice that you can tell on an upcoming trainee, for example? What is the mentality that you need to imbue with the pro wrestling mentality nowadays? So, what are you going to be advising them?
What do you need to have as a trainee? Okay.
It's passion. It's passion, effort, and time. And then, everyone learns and develops at a different pace. It took me a very, very long time to get good, or whether that's open to interpretation as to what good is. Some other wrestlers are much more natural and it doesn't take them as much time, but I think people always say dedication, but I think if you find something you're passionate about, then you don't need to dedicate to it, then it's just an effortless use of time. So I think, I started training in 2002. There are more opportunities as a young wrestler to make a career in pro wrestling than ever before, at least in my lifetime. I think technology and social media has had a massive impact on that, and I think the hardest part about pro wrestling was always getting people to watch it. I've always been confident that as soon as someone sees wrestling, especially live wrestling, they'll fall in love with it. So it's just there's been a stigma or an idea about what pro wrestling is, but it's not been a reality. So I think the battle is becoming much easier to get people to watch wrestling. So yeah, I would just I think if you're dreaming of being a pro wrestler, just start immediately. So many people always ask me, I really want to be a pro wrestler. Like, what do you think? I was like, if you want to be a pro wrestler, just start tomorrow. Just get involved, and then be ready for a long journey. But every part of it, I started training in a tiny corner of Southeast England, and now I'm living in Japan, and I've come to the Philippines. So, the life that you can have as a pro wrestler is incredible. So, if that's your dream, start immediately.
My best advice would be choosing Charmander into evolving into a Charizard, because that will get you far in Pokemon. Am I right, boys?
Oh yeah. You're outvoted, man. You're outvoted, Charizard.
Are you a Bulbasaur guy?
Yes.
You're a Charizard.
Always been fire type, fire type.
Shit, he's a boy.
Alright, time for one
Oh, you
last.
are a Bulbasaur.
One last question. Alright.
Good afternoon. My question is for Pepito and Jinjin. Jinjin, you're no stranger in wrestling in the Philippines, while Pepito, this will be your first time performing in front of the Filipino crowd. What does this Dexcon Manila event mean to each of you personally, and how do you plan to make an impact here? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's a question for him, wasn't it?
Pepito and
You go first. Step up to the plate, kid. This is the main event. Let's see what you got to say.
Someone get him a drink. I need a drink to deal with him. Of course, the expectations are very high for Dexcon. Obviously, Dexcon is still somewhat new, but I think the growth they've been able to have in such a short period of time. I honestly think there are very few independent shows that would host an event like this before. This feels it's very impressive, and we've come to have the best possible match that we can tomorrow, and it was I think it's very special to have another wrestler from New Japan here as well, just to show that we are not only paying attention to the Filipino wrestling scene, but we want to support it as much as possible. And then selfishly, I'm here to test myself as much as possible. Like, I don't see this as a step down for anything at all. If anything, I see it as a bigger challenge because I don't want anyone to watch New Japan wrestlers and think, oh, these guys are lazy, these guys aren't putting effort in, they're not serious. So I'm going to feel as much pressure tomorrow as the Tokyo Dome main event, and to be honest, I'll have more fun here than I did in the Tokyo Dome. So that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I forget the question. I just want to reiterate the fact that we're doing a press conference in front of all you guys the day before an independent wrestling show in 2025 is crazy. Like, it's very cool for us to be here, it's very cool for you guys to be here. There's a lot of cameras. Like, you guys are excited, but we're excited. And the fact that this is happening in Manila is awesome. Like, in New Japan, we only do this before the G1, or we do this before Osaka Hall, or we do this before Tokyo Dome. Like, this is a big deal for us, just as it is a big deal for you guys. So pop for yourselves. Yeah, I just want to reiterate the professionalism that these guys had picking us up from the airport in a bus nicer than what we have in New Japan. Does not go unnoticed. The fact that I slept 2 hours and we had a Whopper waiting for me in the car today saved my ass. This is very cool, and all of us should be proud of us that we're doing this in wrestling in 2025. And bury these kids and let's take it home.
Final words from everyone before we wrap it up.
Alright, let's do the traditional fuck you to all you fans from Fabio. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. Right? Any first timers today? Wow, there's very few first time watching Pinoy wrestling. Like first time.
First time.
How about, because there's still people in the back. Hoy! Ano? First time nyo manood ng Pinoy wrestling? So, kami nyo lang sa lobby, papasukin nyo dito.